The Seltos is the model that established Kia in India. Back in 2019, you could tell that Kia went all out with the Seltos to woo Indian buyers unfamiliar with the brand. And over these years, the Seltos has had a very strong innings. But we are now going into 2026. The new second-gen Seltos is out. Can it repeat the magic? But before we go any further, let me know what you think of the new Kia Seltos and if you'd have it over any of its midsize SUV rivals. The list of rivals is very long, so I'll just run you through it. You have the Tata Sierra, the Hyundai Creta, the Volkswagen Tiguan, the Skoda Kushaq, the Maruti Grand Vitara, Maruti Victoris, Toyota Hyryder, MG Aster and Honda Elevate. And if you haven't already, please do subscribe to the Autocar India channel and hit that bell icon to be notified every time we have a new video up. और अगर आप ये वीडियो हिंदी में देखना पसंद करेंगे, please check कीजिए Autocar India channel. Before all else, you should know that this second-gen Kia Seltos is underpinned by a new platform, K3 as Kia calls it, and with it comes the promise of enhanced safety, enhanced comfort as well as enhanced technology. But when you see a new gen Kia Seltos for the very first time, the thing that will get you is its size. It's grown. It's 95 millimeters longer in length, 80 millimeters of which is focused on the wheelbase alone. In wheelbase, the Seltos is second only to the Sierra amongst traditional rivals, but the Kia is the longest amongst its peers, and overall length has actually inched closer to the next segment of SUVs like the Tata Harrier. It's also 30 millimeters wider, but while the new Seltos does look more substantial than the model it replaces, I'm not quite sure if this bold new look will have the same universal appeal as the old models. There's a split headlight look comprising vertically oriented DRLs at the edges with the main square unit sitting amidst the grille. The grille itself is vast and spans the width of the front end. The grille sports a gloss finish, but the large openings give an unsightly view of the radiator that sits far behind. There's more of the gloss finish on the lower section of the bumper with body-colored enclosures for the LED fog lamps. There's perhaps too much happening at the front, but I will say that the new Seltos does look much better in the metal than it does on screen. At the sides, you get these flared out elements over the wheels and they do add volume to the design. You also get a gloss finish over the wheel arches. Now that's something we've seen on the newer lot of SUVs and we'll have to wait and see how these stand the test of time. Now GT line versions of the Seltos like this one ride on 18-inch rims. The rim design is a slightly geometric pattern. I think it would work better on an EV, but to each his own. Just in case you're wondering, there are no exposed bolts for the wheels, so when it's time to change tires, you need to pop the square at the center. Further back, there's more of the gloss treatment on the lower section of the doors. You also get flush fitting door handles. Now the good thing about these is that they come with proximity sensors, so when you approach the car, they'll pop out, so you won't really need to fumble with the door handles, at least in the dark. You also get these roof rails, but they are not functional, they cannot take any load. Further back, there is this pinch treatment to the glass house, which sort of links it to the earlier Seltos. At the back, the Seltos gets a pronounced spoiler, and what's cool is that it hides the rear wash and wipe mechanism. The treatment to the tail end is new age Kia, so you get vertically oriented tail lamps. You get this light bar that runs the width of the tailgate, though it doesn't light up the center portion. There's a big Kia logo, more gloss materials lower down on the bumper, but what is missing is the sight of the exhaust tips, which is now hidden somewhere behind. When it's time to load luggage, you'll note that the tailgate isn't powered and boot capacity is adequate, but it's not exceptional. Now Kia says luggage space has grown from 433 litres on the original Seltos to 447 litres. While there is an improvement, it should have been a whole lot larger still, given how much the new Seltos has grown in size. The boot is deep, but there's not much height to the seat top. Also, the loading lip is really high. The rear seat does split 60-40 and folds to sit pretty flat with the floor, and what's also nice is that
Kia has packed in a full-size spare tyre.
A lot has changed outside, but what's it like inside?
Now inside, this feels like a new age Kia interior, which means it's well laid out and gives prime real estate to the screens. Now worth mentioning is that our GT line test car gets a dual tone interior theme, so you get light materials on top and a darker theme lower down. The dashboard is predominantly finished in grey, and there are only few soft touch materials like over here. But despite that fact, it doesn't look what you'd call plasticky. There are nice textures and it is pretty nicely put together. Panel fit is really good, and what does add color, at least in the dark, is the ambient lighting, which stretches from the doors to the dashboard, and it looks really nice. There are a lot of colors that you can choose from.
Shifting focus to the screens.
The 12.3-inch touchscreen, again, very slick to use, really crisp in its graphics, and it's pretty well laid out as well. You also get wireless connectivity for Android Auto and Apple CarPlay, which is something that was missing on the high-spec variants of the last gen Seltos. You also get a very crisp and clear 360-degree camera with multiple views for the front and rear cameras, really nicely done.
Also packed in are over-the-air updates for the software as well as a remote diagnostics function.
And something that drivers will really appreciate is that you also get physical shortcut buttons which are positioned just under the screen.
The other big screen is for the dials.
The 12.3-inch digital dials are crisp and very easy to refer to, and I love the fact that they also pack in the blind view monitors which relay a feed from the wing mirror cameras and show you your blind spots in clear sight. What is a miss is that the level of adjustability has actually gone down from the older Seltos. So when you toggle between the drive modes, the changes are not as comprehensive as they were. You will see a few changes in colors, but that's about it.
You can toggle between dials and a squircle-like surround for the speedometer and tachometer.
Now, 3-screen layout is something that's trending these days, and you could argue that it's missing on the Kia Seltos. Though Kia insiders would like to correct you, because there is a third screen and it's nestled between the 12.3-inch digital dials and the 12.3-inch touchscreen, and it is the 5-inch screen for the climate control system. So you can see blower settings, blower position and other climate control related data right here, and also make some adjustments for the defogger and all that. But to me, it's a bit redundant because you have physical controls for the very same functions, and these are way easier to use on the go.
Moving on to the driver environment.
The steering gets tilt and telescopic adjustments, and it's actually rather nice to hold. Also, if you keep your hands at the 9 and 3 position, you won't dirty this lighter material which covers the top section of the rim. I also like how the drive and traction modes have been incorporated onto the steering itself. But while talking of the buttons, I do find it a bit odd that the audio system control are on the right side of the steering box. They should have logically been closer to the touchscreen on the left side. All the car setting functions which should have been on the right are on the left. Front seat comfort is reasonable for average sized adults, but if you are of a larger frame like me, you will find that the seats aren't quite as generous as they should have been. Both in terms of support at the sides, they are a bit narrow, as well as shoulder support. The mesh-like finish for the front headrest is quite interesting, as is the look of the dual-tone seats. The seats are well padded and the perforations on the seats look really good. The seats also pack in ventilation, which is an all-important feature these days, and there's also a driver seat memory function that debuts on the Seltos. The memory function not only remembers the position of the seat but also of the mirrors, and that's a very handy touch. You can also program the seats to offer a welcome gesture, so they will roll back when you open the doors, easing entry and exit.
Given the pampering for the driver, it's a shame that the front passenger seat controls are fully manual.
Of course, one of the big draws on the Seltos for a lot of buyers will be the large panoramic sunroof. The Seltos also packs in an 8-speaker Bose sound system. I will say that the sound quality is good, but it's not absolutely exceptional. It doesn't sound quite as punchy as you'd want it to.
There aren't any preset sound modes either, and adjustability is quite limited.
What is a nice inclusion on the new Seltos is an auto tilt function for the mirrors. So when you move the gear lever to reverse, the mirrors will automatically tilt downwards to give you a better view of the world behind you. In terms of storage options, you get a nice roller cover for the two cup holders between the front seats. This fixed armrest lifts to reveal a box, and there's also a 12-volt charging socket here. There's a wireless phone charger at the base of the dashboard. You also get 3 Type-C charging ports. The door pockets on the doors are nice and large and can hold a big bottle, but the glove box isn't all that large.
Before I head to the back, here are the key features at a glance.
Curiously, an onboard air purifier and head-up display are items that were there on the old Seltos but are missing here. Moving to the back. Now, in terms of rear seat space, what's clear is that 80mm longer wheelbase has been used to great effect, freeing up a good amount of knee room. Now, I'm just under 6 feet tall. The driver's seat is set to my driving position and I am really comfortable on knee room. Even cabin width is more than reasonable for 3 adults to sit in a good deal of comfort. It's not class best, it's not quite up there with the Tata Sierra, but for 3 average sized adults, it will be a place to sit quite comfortably. Headroom, however, is just about adequate for someone of my height. My hair is brushing the roof lining, and that's a problem that you'll typically face with cars with this big panoramic sunroof. The panoramic sunroof itself does really well to let in a lot of light, and in general this feels like a pretty airy and spacious cabin. Mind you, the version which we have features a predominantly dark theme. Versions with lighter interior themes will feel airier and roomier still. Seat comfort, however, is a bit of a mixed bag. Now, the cushioning is soft, which is nice, but the squab is also short, so your thighs don't get as much support as you'd like. Also, cushioning at the lower back region seems a bit excessive and sort of pushes against your back. The seat does offer some level of adjustability as it did before, so you can adjust the recline angle to 2 stages. In terms of features, all 3 of the rear seats get adjustable headrests as well as 3-point seat belts. Other things on the list include rear sunblinds, which is a very handy feature on hot and sunny days. You get rear air conditioning vents. There's also USB Type-C chargers, which are packaged onto the backrests of the front seats. Then there's a fold-down armrest when the middle seat isn't occupied. It sits at a nice height and also houses 2 cup holders. You also get large bottle holders on each of the doors, as well as a small storage for your phone under the AC vents. There's also a magazine holder behind the rear seats, but when you use it, you'll realize that this is not fabric, it's actually a large plastic panel.
While talking of the back seat, there is a nagging feeling that Kia could have done more.
What is missing on the new gen Seltos is a seat ventilation function for the rear seats, which is something that you get on the cheaper Kia Seltos. Also, what's missed is a boss mode function, which would allow you to adjust the front seat position from the back.
So, the new Seltos is very different outside and inside, but the engines are shared with the older model.
The only change under the new Seltos' bonnet is the inclusion of gas struts for the opening mechanism. Otherwise, it carries forward the same engines and gearboxes that you got on the old Seltos. So, to run you through the list, you have a 1.5 litre naturally aspirated petrol engine that makes 115 horsepower. It's available with a 6-speed manual gearbox as well as a CVT or IVT as Kia calls it. Then there's a 1.5 litre turbo-petrol engine, makes 160 horsepower. It's available with a 7-speed dual-clutch automatic as well as a 6-speed IMT. No traditional 3-pedal manual gearbox with the turbo-petrol. And finally, for diesel lovers, there's the 1.5 litre 4-cylinder diesel engine, makes 116 horsepower and 250 Newton meters, comes with a 6-speed manual gearbox as well as a 6-speed torque converter automatic.
Before you ask, strong hybrids will join the lineup but aren't expected before 2027. Also, as before, the Seltos for India is front-wheel drive only, but there is an all-wheel drive version sold in markets abroad. Featured in this video are the turbo-petrol DCT and the diesel automatic. Into the turbo-petrol first, whose 160 horsepower power figure is a joint class best with the Hyundai Creta that also uses the same engine and the new Tata Sierra. It's a very nice engine that isn't forthright about its power. Now the deal with this 160 horsepower 1.5 litre turbo petrol engine is that it doesn't bunch up its power. You don't get this spike in power delivery in the mid-range, which is something that you do get on say a Volkswagen Group's 4-cylinder 1.5 litre turbo petrol engine. But what it lacks somewhat in excitement, it makes up for with a strong, sustained and very linear delivery of power. In fact, you'll actually be caught off guard by the performance that this engine has to offer. It's deceptively quick. Performance is satisfactory and drive with a bit of enthusiasm, and you'll also get a throaty, if slightly muted, note from the exhaust. The 7-speed DCT also plays its supporting role well. When you want a sudden burst of power and you mash down on the accelerator pedal, the dual clutch gearbox is only too happy to oblige, dropping 2 or 3 gears if needed. Drive modes do help alter the driving experience, but I'll have to say it's only to an extent. The changes in performance and gear shift responses aren't really dramatic when you move from eco to normal to sport mode. Of course, the gearbox feels its alertness when you're driving in sport, and that makes the biggest difference. You can also take matters into your own hands using the paddle shifters or even the gear lever to keep the engine in its zone. DCTs are great for quick shifts and on highways, but tend to fumble in slow-speed city driving. First impressions suggest a smoother experience on the new Seltos, though a true test would be a drive-through rush hour. A clear area of improvement is ride comfort. Owners of the old Seltos will tell you that there was an unmistakable firmness to the ride quality, particularly at low speeds. I'm happy to report that Kia has made amends. Bump absorption is significantly better now, and you don't feel as much of the road below you as you did on the older car. I use a Creta N-Line as a daily driver, which also rides on 18-inch wheels, and I can tell you that ride quality is significantly better on the new Seltos. Kia hasn't given a ground clearance figure, but the unladen figure should be in the region of 190mm, which is sufficient. Handling and high-speed manners are also good. There haven't been any really sharp corners on our drive route, but I can tell you that the new Seltos changes direction diligently and body control is good. What I also really like is how well the suspension is damped. There are no secondary movements after a bump, and that means that even if there's a pothole, say, while you're on a corner, the car doesn't get ruffled. While the turbo petrol and DCT is fun, it might not be the ideal version for your needs. Now the 160 horsepower turbo petrol engine and DCT gearbox combination sure sounds exciting, but I'll be honest, if the bulk of your driving is going to be in city confines and you'll be going through slow moving traffic for most of your driving time, perhaps the better pick for you will be the 1.5 litre naturally aspirated petrol engine with the IVT gearbox. The third engine option is the diesel. To recap the specs, the engine is a 1.5 litre turbo diesel that makes 116 horsepower and 250 Newton meters. I'll describe the Kia Seltos diesel's performance as relaxed. It delivers easygoing performance, the power comes in a friendly and linear manner, and you'll get up to cruising speeds without much effort. But that strong mid-range that makes turbo diesels exciting to drive is missing here. Fact is, the Seltos diesel feels its best when you adopt a relaxed driving style. Press down hard on the accelerator for a quick overtake and you'll hear the engine groan and boom. It never gets really loud, but there's no mistaking that the engine under that bonnet is a diesel. What this engine lacks is that feeling of a reserve of power, and frankly, you can't get over the impression that the Seltos has grown, and so should have the power figure of its diesel engine. The torque converter auto gearbox remains very likable. For its part, the torque converter automatic gearbox does cover up some of the engine's weaknesses. It's quick to shift, it's really smooth while doing all that it does, and the combination, if you take both of them together, the engine and gearbox actually work really well. The Seltos diesel gives you the option to manually change gears via the paddle shifters as well as the gear lever. But
Honestly, the best way to enjoy this engine and gearbox combination is to leave it to its own devices. Of the other things, road and wind noise are well contained, but there is a difference in ride comfort between the petrol and diesel. Now, having also driven the turbo petrol over the course of the day, I have to say that the diesel isn't quite as well set up as the turbo petrol. You do feel a bit more movement, there is a bit more firmness in the setup, but if you compare it to the last gen Seltos, this one is definitely better. Kia hasn't revealed any fuel economy numbers for the Seltos as yet. No global NCAP or Bharat NCAP crash test scores have also been announced. The Seltos does comply with all safety norms and the list of standard safety equipment is long. 6 airbags, disc brakes on all 4 wheels, ABS, stability control, hill start assist, tire pressure monitor, ISOFIX child seat mounts, 3-point seat belts for all seats and a reverse camera with rear parking sensors are standard fit. Top versions also add in front and side parking sensors. There's also a 360-degree camera as well as ADAS Level 2 functions. Now the ADAS functions are really well calibrated. I've made good use of adaptive cruise control and lane keep assist on a highway drive outside of Bengaluru. What I really like is that it reads the traffic conditions well and it doesn't slow down as if it's panicking. The braking is nice and gradual and feels very natural, so you can actually leave the system on and trust it with what it's meant to do. The responses of the lane keep assist system have also been predictable and it doesn't sort of overcorrect as we have experienced in many other cars that feature ADAS. Other functions which I really like include rear cross traffic alert, so it'll tell you if there is a vehicle in your blind spot, and in case you don't take action, it will also stop the car for you. And as I mentioned already, I really love the blind view monitors that pop out on the dials every time you activate the indicators. Really helpful in our haphazard driving circumstances. Kia will announce prices for the new Seltos on Jan 2, 2026. As before, there'll be a very wide range of prices. In all, there are 40 variants, all engines, gearboxes and trim levels accounted for. We expect pricing to be competitive, starting at about 11 lakh rupees, with top X-line versions coming in at around 20 lakh rupees ex-showroom. Question is, should you be interested in the new Seltos? To be honest, the second gen Seltos isn't as revolutionary as the original was at launch. Yes, the Gen 2 Seltos is larger and ride comfort is much improved, but in most other areas it feels similar or only incrementally better than the last model. Then again, that's no bad thing because the original Seltos already had most bases covered. What the new Seltos does is build on a winning formula. A more powerful diesel engine and some more wow factors would have helped, but even as is, there's lots to tempt mid-size SUV buyers.